right, welcome back to another episode of One True Podcast. With me, as always, is Zach Smith. How are you, Zach?
We have real football to talk about. I mean, how good does that feel? Like it's not practice. We're not talking about practice. Right?
Hey, thank you, Allen Iverson.
Real football. Let's go.
Nice. And with us, we have Peter Rauterkus from AL.com, who covers the Auburn Tigers, entering his second season on that beat. Peter, thanks for hopping on with us, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as Zach said, guys, I mean it's here, it's fun. It's always fun to have a big Power Four matchup right out of the box. That's what we've got when Auburn comes to Waco for a Friday night game against Baylor at McLane Stadium. How much do you guys think that the players and the fans appreciate having a matchup like this, right out of the gate?
You wrote a good story on this about how rightfully I think Dave Aranda is taking this. It's just another game, all of the coach speak, all of that. But I think especially the players and especially the fans look at this game as really the beginning of a new era of sorts for Baylor. I listening and reading to a bunch of previews for this game. Uh, People have been saying that Waco is a tough place to play, and I know I'm somewhat new here. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I have to give Baylor a ton of credit because, all the promotions for the blackout game, bringing back chrome uniforms, drone show, they're going to have a flyover. Like they're trying to maybe turn that around. And Brice, this would be a good question for you because I've heard some discussion about it. Is this the biggest kind of preseason lead up for a game at McLane maybe ever? Certainly there have been good games against TCU, Kansas State, all of that. But I mean, the lead up to this game has got to be one of the most hyped games ever at McLane Stadium.
Well, first of all, I've been around here a while,
Keep
and
it since McLane, Brice. I know it's been a
yeah,
while.
I know. I can't think of a week one game
Right.
that was quite this big. Um, so yeah, I mean, I get that. And to your point about Waco being a tough place to play, meh. I mean,
Right.
I think it goes to how good the team is. And there's been years where they've been up and years where they've been down, and that's kind of Baylor's trajectory over the last decade and a half or so. When they're good, yeah, it's a tough place to play. When they're not so good, yeah, not as much. But Peter, what's kind of the Auburn perspective on this? I mean, are the guys excited about this opportunity?
Yeah, I think at Auburn it's huge. I mean, it's really exciting for the players. I mean, starting with the fact that one, I mean, Auburn hasn't played a big or even a Power Five opponent in Week One in a while. I mean, the last one I can remember was 2020, which was, I mean, that was the COVID season, so you're only playing conference games. And the year before that, they played Oregon at AT&T Stadium. But this is the first time under Hugh Freeze, at least, and this group of players that they'll have that type of experience. So I think, on one hand, the players are very excited. And I think from the fan base's point of view, I think when you look at the context of what kind of season this is for Auburn, what kind of season this is for Hugh Freeze and the program and the direction that it wants to be going, starting off with a big opponent on the road, I mean, it's just a huge opportunity to quiet some of that noise where, if you're Auburn and you beat Baylor, you're feeling pretty good about yourself and you can, maybe things start to quiet down for a little bit. But at the same time, if you lose to Baylor, especially if you lose, you don't look good, then everything gets ratcheted up a notch.
Did they have many Texans on their team that might be, coming back home, so to speak?
I mean, obviously Jackson Arnold is the big one. I mean, he was, he talked about it yesterday about how much it means to him to be playing, back playing Friday Night Lights in Texas. I mean, other than him, he might be the only one. I mean, I can't think of anybody else on this roster, at least any big player. Oh, Chris Murray, that's another one. Chris Murray, defensive Buck linebacker, defensive end, transferred from Sam Houston State. He's from Texas as well. Haven't talked to him as much about this game, but I know Jackson Arnold obviously the center of the show for Auburn, and so it seems like it means a lot for him and his family.
Yeah. So, guys, the betting line for this game has been up. It's been down. I mean, it's been all over the place. I've seen Auburn as a favorite. I've seen Baylor as a favorite. I mean, I guess there are different betting services out there too. But the latest line I saw was Auburn at 2.5. Is that the most current
Mm-hmm.
thing y'all have seen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, to me, that indicates there's probably a lot of money coming in on both sides if the line's moving back and forth. And that probably signals that this is a toss up game that people don't really know who's going to win. So, I mean, what's just kind of your take? What do you guys expect out of this one?
I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a great game. And you look at really the first week of college football, there's a lot of great games. And this one is maybe it doesn't have the ranked on ranked matchup that Texas and Oklahoma or Ohio State or LSU and Clemson do. But man, it's two really good teams that, as Peter kind of mentioned, really this could set the tone for either of their seasons. And I think I saw the over is creeping close to 60. Uh, Give me that. I'll take the over because I think that, I think Baylor wants to. I know we're going to touch on, you know, where the game's going to be won or lost. And I think Baylor wants to force Auburn to throw the ball a little bit more. And certainly, if there's something I trust about Baylor, it's them to score points and have that offense kind of click. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it might divulge into a shootout, which if you can win the turnover battle, I think Baylor would be okay with that. So I'm looking for. I think it's going to be a good one. Can't wait.
Peter?
I mean, I agree with Zach. I mean, the only thing that I think, could be a little different is I think, both offenses have the potential to be very good. And obviously Baylor is returning a lot. But, one thing that Dave Wren and Hugh Freeze both talked about earlier this week was, especially when you watch the week 0 matchups last week and season opening games, you have mistakes. You have, I think Dave Wren mentioned, usually you see teams lose these games rather than one team winning. And, I think, things like that, the turnover, I think those are things that could maybe bring the total down a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't see this being a, 14-10 or 17-14, just, dogfight, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game that is decided in the 20s. And I think it could come down to, very little things, whether it's a turnover, whether it's a team knocking out the field on third down, whether it's a kick. So I agree. I think it's going to be a really close game, a really entertaining one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna lean. Haven't made my pick, but think I'm gonna lean toward Baylor just as the home team. I think the Bears are, sneaky good. Like I think they could compete for the Big 12 championship, but we'll see. If it is a barn burner, kind of high scoring game, I mean, Zach, we're familiar with that. That was Baylor's last game against an SEC team. How many they score in that one? I mean, what was 76 points or
Yes. 70, 75 points in that one.
yeah. Talking about the LSU game in the Texas Bowl. So, but I actually, Peter, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think being week 1, you always see, you do see some turnovers. You do see some like um, working the kinks out kind of, moments. I mean, it's just, where we are in the season, kicking it off. And so um, it could be a little bit of a war of attrition, I think, in that regard. But we'll see. I'm excited as well. One of the matchups that has been talked about a lot, I'm sure you guys have both written about it, but is that matchup of Auburn's stellar receiving core, talking about Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Horatio Fields. I know they got some other guys too, going up against a revamped Baylor secondary. Baylor's DBs were not great last year. I would say that was a little bit of a
Mm-hmm.
weakness. Is in your mind, is that where the game is won, or are there other matchups that you're going to kind of be watching closely?
Yes, that is the biggest thing for me. That is if Baylor can shut them down a little bit, or at least contain them, not give up big chunk plays like they were prone to in the past, um, that's going to decide the game. But more, focusing in, Peter mentioned Jackson Arnold, and I think he is the key. Like, can he get the ball to those receivers? Can he make a decision? Can he have some confidence? And you know, how much pressure can Baylor then in turn get on him? Which it all works for each other. And so I'm curious to see, yes, those three receivers against Baylor's secondary, but Jackson Arnold. And like, we've all seen the YouTube clips or the Twitter clips of Hugh Freeze throwing his, you know, his hat down in frustration. And Jackson Arnold was very turnover prone at Oklahoma, but he was behind an injured offensive line and didn't have many receivers to throw to. So I am so curious to see, and Peter can probably answer this question far better than I can. How confident is Jackson Arnold, and like, what is his level of, preparedness for a new offense and a new game with all these new pieces? Like, what is Jackson Arnold going to be like? That's the biggest question for me.
I mean, I think that's the biggest question for everybody involved, maybe even down to the Auburn coaching staff, right? I mean, it's, Hugh Freeze was just talking about on the SEC teleconference about an hour ago how, kind of the dilemma during camp is like, seeing some good things, but you can't really see everything from the sense that one, they like his running ability, but every play gets blown dead before somebody actually gets close to him. And then, the offense has sputtered at times, but at the same time, it's not like they're putting in a game plan for the defense in practice like they put in a game plan for an opposing defense. When I look at Jackson Arnold, I think what they've liked from him in camp is that they really like what he's been able to do in the RPO and the quick game. What's been an issue, and this is partly due to Arnold, partly due to the offensive line, is the drop back passing game.
Mm.
I still think that they want to stay out of that as much as possible. And a big part of that is, staying ahead of the chains, not getting into third and longs. I mean, third and longs are tough for anybody, obviously, but, especially for a team that's not very confident in the drop back passing game, I think being able to run the ball well and being able to hit on those RPOs is going to be big. I mean, obviously, Auburn's wide receivers are very talented. One thing to watch is Eric Singleton Jr. Hugh Freeze said he expects him to play, but he's still not quite 100%, recovering from a thigh bruise. So interested to see how much he'll be able to give Auburn on Friday. But like I said, I think he'll be out there. So I think the Baylor DBs versus Auburn's wide receivers is one of the big matchups to watch. But like I mentioned with the drop back passing, I'm also fascinated to see how does Auburn's offensive line hold up? Because they haven't been great during camp. And, Baylor wasn't a great, Baylor, wasn't in the top half of the country in sacks or getting pressures last year. But, they talked about, Auburn talked about this week about, preparing for those zone blitzes and how, Dave Aranda's, been good at the pass at, frustrating quarterbacks and drawing those things up. So those are the two areas where I'm the two matchups that I'm watching closest.
Yeah, I did ask Dave earlier this week if they might blitz more often, just partially to try to take a little pressure off of those
Mm-hmm.
DBs. And he talked about the quarterback's mobility, and you got to watch out for that as well. One matchup that y'all didn't mention that I'm going to be kind of interested to see is just Bryson Washington against Auburn's defensive front, Auburn's defense as a whole. Um, I felt like Bryson Washington for Baylor last year was a little bit of a um, game changer. I mean, because now they could run the ball with some authority and consistency. And to me, it just opened things up for Sawyer Robertson in that passing game. He's just a stud. He's
Mm-hmm.
really good. Obviously, they lose Dawson Pendergrass for the season, so that you take a hit there. I know Zach, you've talked about it. They're high on the freshman kids that are coming in, including Caden Knighton. And certainly running back is a position where maybe a freshman can make more of an immediate impact. But I still think Bryson Washington is a guy that you do not want to get hurt. Like, you want that guy healthy all year if you're Baylor, because he's just really, really good. And So I'll be interested to see if they can keep the chains moving on the ground. That that's going to force Auburn to respect the run um, and open things up for Sawyer and Baylor's got a pretty good receiving room itself. I mean, it's pretty loaded. Maybe it's not being talked about quite as much as Auburn's, but I think it has the potential to be really good.
And we talk so much about, obviously Bryson Washington running behind an offensive line. They've gotten so much love from me and many others this offseason, that offensive line for Baylor, bringing back 4 of 5 starters. That one starter, Caden Saraki, who has started 10 games at Baylor. I mean, he's probably going to be going against Auburn's defensive lineman, Keldrick Falk, who is just a monster. Every time I watch a clip of this dude, like, he's just eating people up. And,
Mm.
so for Bryson Washington and Caden Saraki making his first real, like, I'm the starter now start, yeah, it's going to be certainly something to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. So the man's mama named him Hugh Freeze, but I'm gonna call him Hugh Boiling. How about that? How about
Cherry
that little
bomb. There's a cherry
lame
bomb.
joke? Yes.
First one of the season. We're back.
Yes. Because look, if Baylor wins this game, obviously Hugh Freeze's seat gets a lot hotter, and certainly with each subsequent loss, that would increase. So, Peter, how hot is Freeze's seat kind of coming into this year? And what do you feel like it takes for him to be back in 2026 for year number 4?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean it's not the easiest question to answer really because I don't think it really is. You always get the question of, oh, how many games does this coach need to win to keep his job? I don't think it's necessarily that simple this year. I mean, I think obviously, yeah, if you go worse than 5-7 like you went last year, then it's going to be hard for anybody to want to support that coach anymore. But I think the biggest thing is, Hugh Freeze going into year 3. You go 6-6 and a full rebuild year 1. Year 2, you thought you had more, you thought you had more talent, but you regress a little bit. You go 5-7. They signed another top 10 recruiting class. That's kind of one of the big reasons why they got Hugh Freeze. And so what they need, what people want to see this year is progress. And I think as long as they see that the program is moving in the right direction and there's a reason for them to keep supporting him, I think he'll stick around. And I think part of that is on the field, and then part of that is how this recruiting class finishes, which was another big story during the offseason. But obviously, I think we talked about it at the beginning of the show. I mean, winning a game like this in week 1 would go a long way to quiet that noise, while losing a game like this week 1 would ratchet things up. So I think this game is huge in that respect. But at the same time, I don't think the way I think Hugh Freeze is being looked at Auburn and by the people who make these decisions, I don't think it's going to come down necessarily to one or two games. I think it's going to, at this, maybe in November, December, they look and be like, all right, where is the program now compared to it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Auburn, if they fire Hugh Freeze, that would be the third coach they fired since 2020. I mean, I
Mm.
don't know that Auburn is very interested in paying any more coaches to not coach.
Right.
Well played. Yeah. Well, progress is not easily achieved in the SEC when you get one thumper after another every week. I mean, so yeah, it'll be real interesting to see how it all plays out. Yeah, I mean, as someone who's covered coaching searches before, I don't wish that on you. Obviously, that's that's always a lot of work. So, um, well, we typically have a little tradition here, Peter. We call it Culinary Corner. This is a podcast that you can use, okay? You're coming to Waco, right?
Yep.
So, now you were in Dallas, right, before, so you may be familiar with some of this already, but I'm gonna tell you some good places to eat, and Zach can chime in too. Um, well, now we have a Terry Black's barbecue. They're classic Texas barbecue. But obviously there's VTEX, which is known for the gut pack, which is like a Frito pie on steroids. Exceptional. Um, I'm a big fan of Schmaltz's, which
Oh yeah. That's the
great
winner right
fan.
there.
Great sandwich. Great sandwich. They have amazing bread. I don't think it's jalapeno cheese bread week, but that's always a good week to hit. Uh, and Zach and I just ate there a few weeks ago. Double R Burgers is a good greasy hamburger that you just can't go wrong with. Those are a few of my favorites. Zach, you got any more to add?
I mean, I would say Health Camp is another is a burger place that I know it's last when we were walking out of Double R, you were like, I love Health Camp, and I think Health Camp is maybe better. Is that a
Mm,
strong take? I don't know if I'm allowed to say
that's
that.
a medium hot take.
Yeah, and then I mean George's. I love George's. I know it's kind of that's the Waco staple, but you can get a lot of stuff there. Big O, all that. I think their burgers are pretty good too. So yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, so there you go, Peter. There's a list. You can go
You can
back and
repay the favor next year when Baylor
I
comes to
was
Auburn.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I have to make sure to hook y'all up
we
this
like
time
to
next year.
eat, man. We're sports writers.
Right.
Hell yeah, no, I get it for sure.
Yeah,
I
cool.
appreciate the suggestions.
Yeah, no problem. So make note of those. Obviously, it should be a fun game on Friday night. Y'all are looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun, and yeah, we'll see you. We'll see y'all on Friday.
Yep, for sure. Thanks again for having me. See y'all then.
Yep. Thanks. Appreciate it.